some.
Yes. Awesome.
Oh, I have had
How are you doing?
a really itchy morning, so I'm trying. Actually, I'm feeling better already. It's like a distraction, isn't it? Anything that you do that takes you out of that place.
Yeah, definitely.
It's all good. It's just a healing.
Yes, just the usual cycle that we're going through.
Body processing stuff, and it's coming out. And I don't. I look okay on here actually, so it's fine.
Yeah, I know. I do find that when it's like on the video, I'm just like, my goodness, my skin looks just amazing. It's absolutely phenomenal.
And this is your heal all tea
that
I'm drinking.
Cool.
Just thought I'd drop that one in.
Excellent. Nice. I like it. So we're here obviously today to talk about diets.
Yes.
It's fantastic and a very varied subject, and it's one I think that, as we've spoken before, we want to do this. It's very what's the word? Controversial. Is it diversive? Is that a word?
Yeah, I think it is.
Because it really sort of renders people very angry often if you're doing something different.
I think there's a couple of I think some people can't get their heads on top of it. They know that there's something there, but it's very, very difficult to pin down.
Yes. Yeah.
If you think about all the foods you eat in a day, and we're going to talk about that as well, aren't we, later, about how people might do that. And then there's people who are, like you say, angry. They're like, no way, I'm eating whatever I want. Especially when you've had a really hard journey with eczema, you just think, not taking anything else away from me.
No, exactly. And I think as well, there's a lot of people that hear over and over again, it has nothing to do with your diet. And I've heard that numerous times, and I'm just like, logically think about this, people. How could it not? So
we're learning so much more about all conditions, not just eczema, but so many things. Mental health is so much more affected by not just food but drink as well. We all know that alcohol can be bad for lots of reasons, and one of those is that it dries out your skin.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, hopefully I suppose with what we're going to chat about today, because I know we've been talking a little bit about diet on your journey. From my perspective as a naturopath, I maintain there are no simple answers to any of these questions, unfortunately, and so everybody is unique. We've all got our own genetics, DNA kind of thing going on. So what I talked to Ruth about eating is probably going to be different to the suggestions I might give somebody else, because food can trigger healing crises. It can trigger oozing, it can trigger flaking, and we'll kind of dig into a little bit around that as well. But there's no one size fits all from a dietary perspective, and I think you guys just got to be open to changes. I suppose that's probably the easiest thing, isn't it? Just be open to it, experiment with it, play with it.
Because sometimes, like you say to me, you get to the point where you don't want to do anything to change, but sometimes you need to have that change. And like I'm now seeing it in a different way, and instead of getting angry with my skin when it flakes, it needs to flake, it's needing to do this. So it might have done it anyway, but if a certain food is creating that, it's actually helping me.
Yeah.
If it's creating hives and lumps and food doesn't do that to me, but I know certain food triggers an eczema flare, which is different, and I can learn to tell the difference. Like tomato, I cannot. It just really inflames my skin, and that's different to the flaring, flaking process.
Yeah. Because for me now, I've gone so far into sort of cleaning my diet. I suppose for me, tomatoes, if I in salads, oh my goodness, amazing.
You like them now?
Yeah. Absolutely love them. They're They don't create a flare. Oranges likewise doesn't create any problem.
Did they used to?
From a perspective of if I was eating fruit, if I touched it, if the juice came on me, then I would react pretty quickly. So I'd have a lot of redness and itching as well. So I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to that, where it's like the skin's broken, and then if the food gets in via that road, then you're going to be itching and all sorts. This was where I kind of struggled, I suppose, from the start, because I was using steroids kind of to keep things at bay. So I don't actually know whether there was any reaction when I would eat tomatoes, because I would literally just go, oh, it's a bit redder today, let's put some steroids on, right? So I don't know, if I'm honest. I do know that there was a period during my teenage years and my early 20s where I would have severe reactions to fruit, and my throat would swell up, my lips and my tongue and everything would swell up, so I carried an EpiPen for that. So I know that was a reaction that we want to avoid.
Yeah. Possibly at all costs, yes.
Yeah, we don't need
our throat swelling up.
Yeah, exactly. That's never a good sign.
No.
But yeah, I mean, what have you found that's been like they're useful for you, I suppose? What changes have been useful so far?
Yeah, I know that dairy affects my skin, and I think that's been something that's affected me since I was a kid. And when I was a child, I'm pretty sure, there's no way of knowing, but I think that my eczema was caused by dairy.
Yeah.
And it was an allergic reaction. As I got older, I started to have worse allergic reactions, and I now have an anaphylactic reaction to dairy. And I wonder whether, had that been dealt with differently as a child, if I'd learnt how to maybe avoid it to start off with, I may not be anaphylactic now. If I'd had some different alternatives of milk as a child, not eaten it till I had chronic eczema and been forced to have it, because my eczema was just horrendous and it was just constantly bad. And then you put steroids on top, and then you have to have that bottle of milk that they used to give us at school. It used to make my lips itch and it used to make me sick, and they still kept making me have it. So if you're doing that to yourself, you are never going to get better, even if you only have to get rid of it out of your diet for a little while. But that wasn't something we learnt from back then. So I know that dairy makes me have eczema. Now I can't have any at all.
Yeah.
I know that certain foods, like if I eat too much of certain foods, I'm definitely more itchy. One of those things is processed foods, 100%.
Yeah.
My skin, when I cut them out, is just so much easier to manage. So it's not an allergy, it's just that food doesn't agree with me, anything processed. But maybe that's all in my head, I don't know. We don't know, do we?
No, but I think with the dairy, that's one of my top 3 things that I get people to cut out. And almost, I don't really like using the terminology cut out, because that to me comes from a place of lack. So it's about sort of saying to people, my view is let's try and see what we can introduce that you can tolerate, that allows you to just move away from that food group, and you're not feeling like you're lacking in anything, basically. So I think dairy is the first one. The reason being, as I say to all my clients, if you've got a cow in your garden and you can milk it and you drink the milk, go for it. You're going to get some good nutrition there. Obviously, it is for predominantly growing a calf into a cow. So let's just firstly bear that in mind.
Yeah, why do we drink other mammals' milk? Every other mammal stops drinking milk when they grow up, and we decide, not only that, but we want to drink other mammals' milk. Because if you said to me now, oh, you can have human milk, you won't be allergic to that, that is no way. Makes me feel just disgusting. Would you want to drink a human milk?
I know. Yeah. We're not really designed to have milk after like 2 years of age, basically. So it's very much just a cultural thing that we drink it. The more I look into it as well, the more I started to kind of be really concerned, obviously, just about the ethics of it. What happens to the reason the cow's producing milk is because it's had calf, and if we're drinking it, we've got a whole other.
We could have another chat about that.
Jeez, yeah.
Let's put that on on the list.
Put that to one side. But definitely very mucus forming in the body. Mucus is it's basically your cells responding directly to something that you have eaten or drunk. It's you might start to notice like maybe a bit nasally, you start coughing things up, you might be sneezing first thing in the morning. Certainly for me, this is what happens. So it's almost like if I have cheese, so this is any dairy product, I'm afraid, guys. So, most people are like, I can cut out milk, but cheese, it's not happening. Cheese will do the same thing, unfortunately.
So do you have dairy in your diet now?
Very sporadically.
I've seen you have it in coffee, I'm sure.
I have I have coconut milk.
Okay.
So no, certainly no cow's milk at all, apart from the odd bit of cheese. Because
I mean, I used to do that. I used to have the odd bit of cheese as a treat and just suffer the eczema, but then one day when I did that I had an anaphylactic reaction, so something changed at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
I now can't do that, but I used to just I have dreams about cheese.
Yeah.
I wake up sometimes and think I've eaten some, and I think, oh, my skin's going to be terrible, but it was such a vivid dream. But eating cheese didn't actually happen, it was just a dream.
That's so funny. It's funny, isn't it, what we dream about in those kind of things.
I crave it.
That's so funny. But yeah, I think for me, again, with the changes that I've made to my diet, if I could take a picture of what I used to eat and what I eat now, it's so completely different. But I'm still a foodie. I love I love watching cooking programs, MasterChef, going to like good restaurants and things like that, and just experiencing food. It's always been a big part of my life growing up, so it's been really important, I suppose, for me to be able to have certain foods, just when I could, not continuously, but be able to eat them. We should be able to eat most things.
Yeah, we should.
But the problem is, obviously, it doesn't quite work that way for a lot of people.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, when I'm working with clients, I suppose the main, message to get across with diet is it is a bit trial and error, to be perfectly honest. It's very much, we've got to see what reactions each person has to the different foods, and if something is a bad reaction, you've never had it before, of course take that out of the diet right away. That's the sensible option. But everybody's different. There's no one diet that will fix eczema, unfortunately.
No, my diet before I really started cutting things out was terrible, really bad. I had a fairly decent diet growing up. I think everything was cooked from scratch. It was quite a simple food we had. But I would eat, when I was living on my own, hot noodles and ready meals, and if I had a sauce, it would be a sauce from a jar, and I never read the ingredients on it. And if I'll say one thing about this journey, having allergies and having eczema, that suddenly I had all these tests done and I had to cut the milk out, and I can remember sitting on the floor just crying in my kitchen because I couldn't eat anything in there. And I'd come home from the shops with these rice cakes, and I just thought my world was just over. And I tried some dairy-free cheese, and I'm sorry, but I'd just rather not have some of them. There are some good ones around now, but it was a big learning curve for me. Now my relationship with food is so much better. I love food and enjoy cooking, but it was hard for me. If there was a few years of real, didn't want to do it.
Yeah, it totally. I think for me, I had a similar kind of diet. So I would potentially choose, I won't have lunch today, I'm going to have some cake for lunch, because because there was still that whole image calorie counting thing going on, and actually I can have the cake, just not have the food, and then I'm not going to be over, right? I mean, that's a whole other mindset going on. Breakfast would have been toast and jam, so hello, some more processed sugar, and let's just add some processed bread on there on top. Tea is very low in actually food that was alive, and that was
coloured food.
Yeah. Be like, oh, jam, there you go, there's some colour in my diet,
Your 5 a day.
Yeah. It's very beige.
Yeah, I would go to the pub, I would drink wine or beer and have chips and mayonnaise. I wouldn't even order a decent meal from the pub. That even when I went out to eat out, I wasn't getting anything good for me.
I know. So it's so funny, I think, when when you look back and you can just be like, oh dear, what did we do?
I have to admit to the occasional cake meal during lockdown, though.
Yeah. Oh well, that's when it's like sort of taken in a very sort of, again, sporadically, that's well-being, right? Now if I have cake, I'm like, I enjoy it, and that helps my well-being.
I made this banana loaf, and I did one day just have, I think, 2 meals of banana loaf. I had it for breakfast, and I thought it was a bad skin day, and that was probably the worst thing I could do as well for my skin, just eat the sugary cake.
But that's part of the whole cycle, though, isn't it? Because there are days when it's just like I can't deal with this. It's like just everything gets on top of us, and so we're more than likely that's when we're going to push to things that are in packets. And ironically, it's the time when we want to be getting the fresh stuff in there, but we just don't want to eat it. Times like that's kind of when I say, if you're reaching for those kind of things, just try and have some juice ready made, and just try and drink some juice during the day, and just keep your water intake up, and don't be hard on yourself either.
But dried fruit as well. Yeah, dried fruit is it is going to be absolutely fine. It's better than nothing, isn't it? Yeah, well, because I fall foul of, especially during the skin journey, of not having gone shopping as well. So I will always have fruit in the house if I can, but then it goes wrong and I don't. So if you've got some dried fruit, at least you've got something in your cupboard that's healthy snacks rather than unhealthy snacks.
Yeah, exactly.
Seeds as well. I've got them in the cupboard usually.
What have you got in the cupboard?
Seeds.
Yeah, exactly.
Seeds and
things like that. Yeah, it's really, really, really good to have those kind of things in there.
So let's move on to the good foods then.
Yeah,
that we can.
There's loads that we can eat. Absolutely loads that we can eat. I suppose what I do notice with clients, and we've got very, this is, I suppose, a bit of a rule that you can go by, is anything that is alive, right? Anything, that small section in the grocery store that's right at the beginning, it's called fruit and veg. You can eat anything in there, absolutely anything, provided obviously you're not having an allergic reaction to something, right? But any food that has been grown, that is alive, that you probably need to keep going to the store for, unfortunately, but if you can grow stuff at home, that stuff is, you just eat as much as you want. Can
I just ask, are you vegan?
No, I don't classify myself as vegan. I don't eat meat, and I very rarely have things like cheese and stuff like that. So it's a predominantly vegan diet. It's, we have fruit and veg delivered every week basically, and that's most of what we eat. I cook from scratch. So, and it's taken a long time to get there. So my first job, when I started this journey, when I started trying to figure out my eczema, going from a processed diet, I just was like, how am I going to cut out, learning you can't have sugar, sugar's not good, processed food not good, alcohol not good, all the things that you have on a daily basis. So I just decided to add smoothies in. And I thought, if I add smoothies into my day, then just try and add more vegetables in when I was cooking, because I've always really cooked my meals. So what I would try and do is just have more veg and then reduce the amount of meat, reduce the amount of like pasta, or reduce the amount of dried like lentils or rice or anything like that. So I would just increase the amount of veg continuously. Then I experimented with like whizzing up cauliflower and broccoli and using that as rice instead. So it's like I could completely get rid of the rice and I would just have veggies. And then slowly but surely I got rid of the meat. And so my diet transformation happened over a period. I mean, it's still evolving, but it's happened over a period of about 4 or 5 years. You know, I didn't do all of this in one day.
That's what's impossible to do. You can't any big change. You're just setting yourself up to fail at it, aren't you?
Exactly. And it's so, I think that's where people, certainly that's what scared me, I suppose, because you feel like everything you know now and everything that you like to eat, you've got to give up. But having the mindset of what can I introduce? How can I play with these foods? And, you know, my goodness, just my favorite thing now is like mashed avocado. Oh my goodness.
Oh, it is good.
You know, mashed avocado and salads, but I just like make, you know, grating different carrots and beetroot and salad leaves, and sometimes I'll like just roast some seeds to kind of give a bit of crunch on there and things like that. There's so much you can play around with, you know. It's crazy, isn't it, really? But if you don't know, you don't have any of those good recipes, then it feels like, oh my god, my life's about to end.
Yeah, I mean, I do eat rice and chickpeas and lentils and things like that. I haven't really thought about cutting those out. Why would you reduce your intake
of those? They are quite complex to digest. So my the way that I look at it, I suppose, is, for me, one of my roots and one of my issues is that I have a lot of lymphatic stagnation around my digestive tract. So when I do my iridology reading, I've had my pictures of my eyes taken, I can see where the lymph stagnation is in my body, typically around the small intestines, which is the area of the body where all of the nutrition is absorbed basically from the food that we're eating. And so what that means is that I can eat and eat and eat and eat and eat, and I am still hungry, because it's like my body just can't break it down. So I could just sit and eat chips, like just keep them coming, because I'm never going to be full, and I would just eat a lot. Like,
That's interesting, because I'm the complete opposite of that. And I think there are two different types of people. So my ex was just like you. If you had put all the chips there and a big 24 pack of crisps, he could just get through the whole lot. I would drive him insane, because I would eat half the packet of a 30-gram packet of crisps, seal it up and put a clip on top, and he would just be like, you're not going to finish those.
How do you do that?
What is wrong with you? I'm full, and if I'm full, I won't finish it.
Yeah,
I can have one square of dark chocolate and be like, that was nice. And
yeah, I'm not like that at all. So I'm the exact opposite. In fact,
what's that all about? It's weird, isn't it? I've always been like it.
Yeah. Do you feel like so I would be looking then at, you know, you're getting stuff, you're getting the nutrients, but how is your stomach processing things? Do you get like acid reflux, or do you feel like
I did. But during lockdown, because I've been doing with my dietitian that I see through the dermatology clinic, we've been looking at my diet as well before working with you, and I've been doing a food diary. And we tried all sorts of things, and I did just used to have a lot of bloating and, you know, just gut issues, and you would call it IBS if you were going to look at my symptoms. But since lockdown and going through my cupboard, and I've chucked out loads of old stuff, and I've just been eating really, really healthily, just cooking everything from scratch and no processed food, unless you count things like bicarbonate of soda and things like that, which obviously are processed. But so I've put ingredients in my house. My gut is amazing. I've not got any IBS at all. except on the nights after a Zoom call where I consume a whole bottle of wine. Other than that, like
not this Zoom call, right?
not this type of Zoom call, no.
Drive you to drink, Ruth. That's not good.
Oh God, no! It's like you can't go on a Zoom call without having. I've started taking a cup of tea with me now because I can't keep doing that. I can't afford it, let alone. But no, my gut is amazing, and I haven't really done anything special. I haven't looked at what I'm eating particularly. I've just been cooking everything from scratch, and it's been really helpful.
Cool. That's great. And I think with it is always interesting because we're, you know, it's that kind of thing that you want to really make note of. And you know, it's like, well, what could be driving my body to do that? Often if if you're full, it's you know, we secrete hormones that say, you know, hey, give me more food. No, I'm full, I don't need any more. You know, there's so much that's involved in those kind of mechanisms and eating and things like that. So that is something for everybody really to just pay attention to, I suppose. If you're like me, where you literally, and this is for a lot of children actually, when I'm working with their parents, it's like they never stop eating. They just graze and snack all day. That is lymph stagnation around the digestive system, basically. That's kind of what we're dealing with. It's almost like that stagnation stops the absorption of the food, of the nutrients basically from the food. So we're maybe not breaking it down good enough. You're also potentially going to see like undigested food in the stool as well, that sort of thing. And so the simpler the food, the easier it is to digest. So going back to the original question, that's why I was trying to reduce the amount of lentils and grains and things, because it added that complexity. What I notice, if I just eat, so I do eat predominantly fruit, that's a large proportion of my diet. And so, for example, today I've eaten 3 pears, 2 apples, 2 nectarines, and a banana. So that's been my day so far.
I think I do need to get more fruit in my diet.
It's very, very hydrating, but it's also very easy to absorb. So with topical steroid withdrawal, it might trigger, it's very detoxing basically. So it can trigger more coming out. So for me, I can go through a day, and actually the days where I just eat fruit, I'm not hungry. I'm like, it's so crazy. But if I start the day with porridge or something non-fruit, I am ravenous like all day. I'm just like, give me something else, please, something else. It's weird.
That is weird.
Really?
And yet I can, like today, I didn't have anything for breakfast, and that's bad because that's where I get a lot of my fruit in.
Yeah.
But I think when I'm having a flare, it's weird. I don't know why, but my brain is almost, I don't know if it thinks it's food related, because I don't think it is. I know it's not food related, what's going on. I'm almost not hungry. It's like there's so much going on, I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
And I someone is forcing myself to have breakfast. And I always feel better for it, but my first meal today was an omelette. So do you eat eggs?
Not so much. I used to eat a lot of eggs. Again, I've reduced those. I actually went off the smell of them. They're just like, my husband has them every day and he cooks them, and I'm just like,
yeah, you shouldn't have them. I think that's your body's way of saying not to.
Yeah.
So I had kale, cucumber, carrot with a bit of garlic, and I've made it into an omelette. And I cooked a chicken last night. Chicken with it.
Yeah.
And some dried apricots.
Yeah.
That's what I had.
Yeah. So the the other thing I do notice as well, so meat, again, very complex to digest. So with another of the recommendations I make for kids is, you know, try and move away from the meat just because of the complexity. But if you are eating it, try and eat it without the carbohydrates.
And I don't actually like that meal. I haven't put any carbs in, and I think I'm not even consciously doing that. I don't eat much carbs.
Yeah. But yeah, we need different enzymes and different digestive secretions to digest the protein to the carbs, and so if you're trying to do both at the same time, it doesn't work as well. So we've evolved a way of eating which is totally abnormal for us, yet we're trained to eat this way because our parents trained us to eat this way, especially in the UK. It's like meat and two veg.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not how we should be.
Gravy on it, and
yeah,
followed by fruit and pudding at the end, which is also completely the wrong way around to do it. And that made a big difference to me as well, realizing that fruit on top of a big meal for me is not great for my stomach.
No, never.
Have fruit first if you're going to have a big meal, that is.
Yeah. And so the fruit, if you think about the process of digestion, you've eaten like a big meal on top, and then what we're told as well, this made me feel so much better, actually. This might help some people, right? You go out for a really big meal and then you feel like, oh my goodness, look at all that I've eaten, I should have a fruit salad to be good. Okay, that's the worst thing you can do. You're adding, it's like, oh my goodness, and you're adding that fruit on top of that meal, and fruit digests exceptionally quickly, and it's going to start to ferment basically, and so you're going to get
why people get such bloating.
Yes, bloating, gas, all that, and
ate so much.
Yeah, then they're going to put it down to that big meal they had. It was probably the fruit salad that you had afterwards. It's not. We don't have that. So I look at it. We try and find a positive spin on this. Have a big meal. If there's some kind of cheesecake or chocolate cake or something, then I can have that.
Have that.
Guilt-free, because
not for me, obviously, but you can.
That's an option,
So I've there's one thing that I've been reading. It's a book, and I don't know if you've come across it. And I'm not plugging this person, but I've learned quite a lot from this, and it's just, I don't know if it comes across the wrong way around, but it's called the Eczema Detox Cookbook, and it does say a lot of the sort of stuff that you talk about as well. And it's actually a really interesting book because it talks about eczema, how the body digests food. It's even got a bit about topical steroid withdrawal in there. Cool. But she talks about the itchy dozen.
Yeah.
Which is 12 foods which they're not evil. Makes me think of like cowboys and Indians. They're foods that I guess cause the most inflammation.
Is oranges on there?
I'm just looking up.
I'm trying to remember what was on the list. I think maybe broccoli, oranges.
Yeah, broccoli's on there, which is an interesting one because I don't think I have any problems with broccoli.
Yeah.
Dairy, eggs, tomatoes, which we've talked about. Kiwi, grapes, avocado, fast food, junk food, oranges, broccoli, dried fruit, deli meats, and soy sauce.
Yeah, so I look at it. So some, obviously, things like processed food, where it's very nutrient poor, basically, that is going to create itchiness, because what we're doing is we're overloading the digestive system. It's got to work really hard to digest all of that stuff, basically, and then we're not even giving the body the nutrients to actually eliminate, fix, or do anything good in the body.
And the ingredients aren't always even food, and it's one of those things that it's like a rule. If your grandma wouldn't know what it was, if it wasn't in her larder, then, and you don't know what it looks like, don't have it. Things like all the gums and calcium propionate and hydrolyze this.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, the gums are one of the worst thing, because you see like carrageenan gum, this is often added to non-dairy milks.
What is that?
It's actually, so when you look at it, we'll say it's natural because it comes from seaweed, so it's like a sort of byproduct of seaweed, right? But we've isolated it again, so it's not actual seaweed, we've just taken the gum part. And so what happens then is, if you were eating seaweed, that would be fantastic because you're getting all this nutritional benefit, but we've again isolated something, and so too much of that creates stomach issues. There's like stomach aches and things that people can get. And obviously now you know, we have a lot of milk, even the non-dairy milk. If you have too much of it, you're then going to start having IBS. You know, it's not that just dairy can do that, but think of the ingredients in these non-dairy milks that you guys are having. Got to be really careful of that as well. But yeah, it's everywhere, isn't it? All that kind of stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The kind of normal foods, shall we say, in the itchy dozen, I look at those as foods that are so nutritious. They're like superfoods, basically, which have got a whole range of nutrition in them. Those produce a healing crisis, right? So they're itchy because they've given your body a shed load of nutrition that it can be like, oh, I'm going to go and fix something. And so then what we see that when we've got eczema, we see that as a healing crisis. We see things coming out of the skin because those nutrients have just provoked some elimination of something of somewhere, basically. So I agree from a perspective of processed foods, sugars, alcohols, all that kind of stuff. You're not getting any benefit for what you're actually eating. But the itchy foods that are fruits and veggies, what I say to my clients is, if you can't cope with the itch that happens because of eating those, then don't eat them. Let's work on improving that poop flow, improving the urination, and then you'll be able to get them in the diet.
Back in. So I guess they're just things to keep an eye on, aren't they? Because I don't seem to have a problem with the real foods on that list.
Yeah.
Apart from the tomato. Not sure about eggs.
Yeah.
I think too much orange, but then
a
bit of orange is okay.
Yeah, I mean, that is works. Just high vitamin C. Oh man, you know, orange juice, delicious when it's like proper orange juice.
You squeeze them. Oh,
yeah, we have fresh squeezed orange juice at the weekends. It's so good.
Yeah. I would concur, definitely.
Yeah, it is so nice. So yeah, I think it depends on your mindset coming into diet. I think that from my perspective, that's how to tackle it, I suppose. I don't know what you found, Ruth, but for me it's been about trying to change into having that positive mindset and looking at what I can eat. How can I incorporate that? How can I make it tasty so that I'm satiated, I suppose?
Yeah, I think I have done this in huge amount of detail in the past. And I think to work out what foods are making you itchy is the challenge.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do that, you need to do a food elimination diet. And if you're going to do that properly, it is not easy. I've created like a little calendar. If anybody wants it, it's available free on my website. But basically, you need to write down every single thing you eat, every single ingredient you put into something. Keep the packets and do that for a week or 2 weeks, and then you would look at that and see if there is anything obvious to cut out. But a proper elimination diet, you're starting off eating really simple stuff, and some of those are things you would not recommend, Rebecca. Because when I did it, I was eating apples and pears, which are fine. I was able to eat rice, which is probably not great for the digestion. I was able to eat chicken, cauliflower, broccoli and cabbage.
Yeah.
And rice, I think. And sweet potatoes, but not normal potatoes. So I was making these sweet potato bread with rice flour. And it was a really hard, really basic diet to start off with. And in extreme cases, she would say buy bottled water only and just drink bottled water.
Yeah.
And I filter my water. I think that makes it a bit more tasty as well. But
cool. I think with rice, you know, it's been the staple for a lot of people around the world for a very long time. It's not to say that rice is necessarily bad, because it is, it comes from a plant, right? It actually slows down detoxification. So if you maybe have eaten like a whole load of fruit and then all of a sudden stuff starts coming out and you're just like, oh my goodness, what have I done? Then having the rice in is going to slow that detox down, because it kind of almost makes your body busy trying to process that, rather than focusing on let's just push stuff out because we've had a whole load of nutrient-dense food come in. So you can use the rice to manage the topical symptoms, basically. So that's one that is great really for parents who, you know, because if kids are left to their own devices, this is what I find fascinating. If I can work with kids that are like young and they haven't had like the processed foods introduced to them, they've not you know, had sweets or anything super sugary, they will naturally put themselves on a detoxification diet. It's quite amazing. You know, they will literally, I've talked to their parents and they're like, right, they've literally just, they only want these fruits. You know, they're not interested in vegetables at all. They won't eat any of those. They're just wanting fruit. And they'll do that for a few days. And then they'll stop eating it altogether. And then they'll go and start eating vegetables. And the parents are just like, what's going on? They wouldn't touch that the other day. And it's, the fruit detoxes, cleanses the body, hydrates the body. Vegetables are nutrient dense and they cleanse the blood. So the fruits detox and cleanse the lymph system, which is the waste system. Vegetables, blood. We got those two fluids in our body, blood and lymph, blood and lymph. But those two food groups support both of those fluids. And children will naturally be like, they'll do fruit, oh, then we're going to do some veggies to get some nutrition and, you know, like build, because kids are always growing. And then they'll stop eating the veggies again, and then they'll go back to the fruits for a little while, and they naturally do that. Cecil,
That's really interesting.
So interesting, and it's just amazing to watch, you know, and parents are like, this is crazy.
I've got a question about refined sugars as well, like why they're so bad. And that's one of the things in this Eczema Detox book that she focuses on a lot, on using natural sugars. And I've got a bit of a sweet tooth, so cutting out sugar completely for me is quite hard. So what are some safe like sugars that are not so bad? And why is sugar so bad? I guess it's not really sugar anymore, is it?
No, it's
so refined.
It's once it's been processed again, you know, you've really changed from the original plant, basically. The sugars that I would say to people, you know, you can have these in your diet. So honey is one. Obviously, if you're strict vegan, you're not going to want to do that. Maple syrup, another. And fruit, basically. Fruit is naturally very, very sweet. But I would always look towards the, you know, the more natural kind of thing.
What about agave?
I think, do you know, I'm not 100% sure how that's processed, to be perfectly honest. So that needs to be something that I need to do a bit of digging into. But if it is literally just, you know, woof, there we go, we've pulled that out. I don't think it is, though. I think there's some kind of processing to get it.
Probably.
You know,
I've got some date syrup at the moment, which is a little bit too nice.
Yeah.
Really nice, but that's a bit processed. But obviously dates are really sweet.
Dates are very, very sweet. In fact, I can't eat that many of them. And I used to have a very sweet tooth, but I can't eat that many now.
They used to have a real thing about them, because I used to think they looked like locusts. Because if you saw one on the floor, they're horrible, but they taste so good.
I know, it took me a long time to actually, you know, I'd be like, why would anybody eat those? Now I'm just like, oh man, that's delicious. But I can't eat that many now. Just a side note, because I just thought I'd throw this in. Anyway, and this is really common, sweet tooth. So sweet, like if we're craving sweet things, there's, again, that's your body sending you a little message, right? That sweetness almost calms down the nervous system around like digestion, basically. So it can kind of, if we're stressed, it can help just to sort of bring that calm and allow us to actually digest things. So if anybody does have like a sweet tooth, really struggling with it, you probably want to do a bit of focus on your digestive system. If you want to look at maybe doing digestive cleansers and things like that. And I know, you know, I think, have you spoken about doing things like that in your blog? But you know, digestive cleansers are going to be really good from that perspective. Also, how I kind of cut out my sweet tooth so I could walk past a bakery without needing to buy everything, was by using cinnamon. So that helped really, and I love cinnamon.
Cinnamon's really lovely. So
Yeah.
how would you put that into your diet then? So you can't just have a teaspoon of it.
No, yeah. Yeah, I believe there's a whole challenge, or there used to be a whole challenge around that, right? They just need to
It'd be horrible.
don't do that. I put it in my smoothies. So this was when I started on my journey, and I had such a sweet tooth. I just couldn't walk past anywhere that was selling cakes without going and buying it. It was terrible. Chocolate, anything sweet. So I started with my smoothies. My smoothies had in it like an apple, a pear, and apple, pear, oats, water, and a big heaped teaspoon of cinnamon, basically.
Okay.
And a banana sometimes. So I just mixed up the fruits in there, and I would just whiz that into a smoothie and have that in the morning instead of breakfast. Over until about a month it took, and then I noticed a significant difference in my sweet tooth. Basically, I was able to, after about 30 days, you go through a bit of a kind of a die-off period, because often this is related to the microbiome. So what you're doing by taking, you're kind of like taking out the sugar, what's going to happen is the bacteria that were relying on that sugar coming in are going to get a little bit upset and start sending messages to the brain to be like, hey, you need sugar, feed me, feed me, feed me. So you have to persevere with it and, push through. Once you've pushed through it.
And is jam all bad? Because I've been eating jam recently, basically because I'm clearing out the cupboard and I found all these old jams.
Mm-hmm. Lots of jam is, obviously jam is very, very much made with processed sugar most of the time. So it's, I wouldn't class that as, doing you good as fruit, basically.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But if you could get fresh, if you've got some, we grow raspberries and strawberries at home. And so, instead of doing jams like compots, just heating them up, and you can kind of store that a little bit, maybe.
I've got rhubarb in my garden and cooked some of that up. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
Really lovely.
Yeah.
But I've got one final sugar question, which is about molasses, because I have got that, and I did a load of research, and it was mostly when I was looking at getting calcium in my diet, because blackstrap molasses has got a lot of calcium in it. Mm-hmm. So I started cooking with that.
Yeah.
Is that better than normal sugar? Because it is sugar, basically, isn't it?
It is still sugar, yeah. It's not as processed. So, on the scale of things, it's not as processed.
You would not be able to take a teaspoonful of blackstrap molasses. It's horrible. Whereas you could have a teaspoon of sugar. And eat, well, I don't think it'd be particularly nice, but people could. I've never really been that sweet too.
Yes.
Eat a mouthful of the stuff.
That might be a little bit too much. But the molasses is still processed, but it's just not as processed. I would still say that you're looking, maple syrup and honey, like that.
Lovely. Maple syrup's just gorgeous.
Going to be the better option to go for. I do have molasses at home, so sometimes that does go into, if I'm making a stew or something like that, just a little bit.
What about coconut sugar?
Again, it's still processed. So there's a lot of these new products about, which, you've got all these different flours and all these different sugars and all this kind of stuff. It's still, always look at it. It's like, well, hold on. If I crack open a coconut, does sugar fall out? No, it doesn't. So something has to have been done to it to get it in the form of sugar. Therefore, it's...
Yeah, I don't know how they do it. I know maple syrup, I've seen that it just trickles out, doesn't it? It's quite a natural kind of basic way of doing it. I'm not sure how they do the coconut.
No, exactly. And so and I'm just like, everything I've learned and everything that I've found when it comes to food, it's always taken me back to basics, as basic as possible. The more processes are involved, the more unnatural it becomes, the more work the body's got to do. Simple as. And at this point in time, when we're trying to heal from something, when we're trying to recover, what we need is for the body to have more time and capacity to fix itself. If we're keeping it busy digesting all of this, you know, weird and wonderful food, that it's like, what is this they've just concocted?
Doing to me.
Yeah, it's not going to have time. You know, it's only got a certain amount of time in the day to be fixing things, basically. It's my simplified view of the world.
I had a question. It's gone. It'll come back to me in a minute.
I popped in the chat, so anybody that's on here live, you know, please feel free to ask any questions, you guys. That's absolutely fine. You can just type it in the little chat box, and that's the idea of this. And then,
yeah, what was I going to ask? Oh, it was about alcohol. Obviously, it's not great, but are there scales of it, like certain alcohol worse or better in terms of feeding?
Fishing for an answer. Yes,
I know, for instance, that cider has got a hell of a lot of sugar in it, and for me, that can trigger a bit of a skin reaction.
Yeah, I think again it will depend for everybody. I've not really sort of seen any difference for myself with the, you know, different kinds of alcohol, but I know that I very rarely drink now. My husband doesn't drink at all, so therefore I will.
Easier not to, isn't it?
Yeah, we just don't, and I haven't really drunk for a very long time. It's a complete opposite of before I met him. So, you know, I would say that I don't know if there's like a hierarchy from an alcohol perspective, to be perfectly honest. What I do know is that as a being, we don't naturally have the enzyme to digest alcohol or to process it, which is why we start to go a little bit woo after a little you know, a certain amount. And so what that means is you're basically poisoning yourself. And this was one of the lectures I remember sitting in, and I was, you know, this was when I was still drinking, you know, like regularly, and you know, I'll just have a glass of wine, just have this, and I just remember listening to the lecturer going, so the only thing that the body can't process, we don't naturally have the enzymes, and it has to basically try and figure out what you've poisoned it with when you pour this into your body, is alcohol. We can deal with arsenic, we can deal with cyanide in small doses, obviously high doses, it's going to poison us. Alcohol is the one thing that it's almost like, you know, we literally poison our bodies, and our bodies just goes into what have they just done to me? Oh my God, I've got to figure out how to process this. So
but we're a nation though of loving alcohol.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So that was a big like, oh, okay, for me. Now with the body, what happens is if you drink a little bit every day, then your body will kind of keep that memory of the enzymes needed to detoxify. Okay, so it will just keep producing them. The body is inherently lazy. So if you go like me, I don't drink at all. And then if I go out and have a drink, then that's like really not good, because my body is just, I will literally poison myself, and then it has to figure out what it's doing. So what I say to people is almost like, you know, if you're going to have it, have a little bit every day. So your body just keeps making those enzymes. And then you're not going to have too much of a shock, basically, for the body. The worst thing you can do is exactly what I do, which is go completely
and then go and meet the girls. And
yes.
What do you drink then when you go out? I'm intrigued.
I'll have like a glass of bubbly or something like that, because that I found that doesn't give me a headache or anything at all, so I can tolerate that.
That's probably what I would go for. I kind of like, it feels a bit cleaner, a bit more, slightly more natural, though I know it's quite a process to make, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, that's like my favourite, and obviously I can't open a bottle of that at home because, you know, I'd have to drink the whole thing.
You don't. But I said this to my friend the other day. I was like, I can't have prosecco because I only want a little bit of it, and she's like, first of all, why would you only have a little bit of it? But I don't want to drink the whole lot. she got me one of these things that you put in the prosecco, and it actually really works. It's a stopper, and it probably, I had a bottle of prosecco that lasted me 3 nights, which is, I would have thought it wouldn't work.
Yes.
It's one of those things you think, well, if you're going to open it, you've got to drink the lot because it just goes flat. It works.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm not suggesting you go and get one.
No, I don't think.
You don't need one, but
no, I'm good. But yeah,
I think I'm going to try and cut down, because I didn't used to drink at all in the week or on my own. It's just a rule for me that I had, drinking on my own, and also because I know it's not good for me. But this lockdown hasn't been good for me, because I've lifted that ban, because I'm using alcohol a little bit to help with anxiety, and it almost seems like you can't go on a Zoom call in the evening without a drink, and everyone's like, hey, it's okay, it doesn't count, the calories don't count, and it's all right drinking during lockdown. But I realised that it's getting a bit too much now, and I used to be able to drink a bottle of wine no problem, and I find I can do that now, and I don't want that. I know my body is going to heal less quickly if I'm doing that.
Yeah.
So I need to address that. I need to probably bring back the ban on alcohol.
And try and, for anybody else obviously that's watching this that might be struggling with that as well, it's, what could you introduce that might be, a little bit maybe more beneficial? Because things like elderflower cordial and things like that.
Love that.
It doesn't necessarily have to be alcoholic, so could you mix yourself like a non-alcoholic beverage, and
it feels a treat, doesn't it, if you put a lime in it and mix things together.
But it's just taking those small steps, because just being like, okay, well, we're drinking maybe every night, to I'm not going to drink at all, that's a big
and it's too hard
for the body, and you want to literally just step it down just a little bit. I think that's the main thing.
And some evenings it's fine, I'll have like the herbal teas. I love herbal teas, and I can not be feeling the lack of it. But then when you go on the call and everyone else has got a drink, and but you can't have tea, because I'm there with my big mug of tea. Yes, I can.
Yes. Oh, we love how people project their insecurities.
Don't know what it is. It's like almost like you can't. I used to get this a lot when you go to the pub, and I would be like, no, I'll have a lemonade or an elderflower cordial. You can't. I'm not asking for that. I'm not asking for a sparkling mineral water. You're gonna have an alcohol. What are you gonna have? And you sort of get bullied into it.
The joys of growing up in the UK.
It's like that's embarrassing. You can't have a soft drink. Where did that come from? It should just be, what do you want? Okay, you have that. You have what you want.
No, it doesn't work that way, does it? It doesn't work
for some reason, no.
But oh dear, I don't know. It is
right. You've answered all my questions. It's been really interesting, because I get this a lot, especially with people who've had quite bad eczema, that they refuse to look at food, and I just feel like you're crazy not to. You're crazy not to look at other things in your household as well. I'm going through my whole house and making everything natural. Like if I'm going to use something on my skin, I want it to be as natural as possible. If I'm going to clean my house and I can do it with the natural product, then I'll try to. And I'm just trying to get my house to be as natural and a safer place as possible for me. Like I looked at all my candles, and candles are really bad for the environment. So I now have a beeswax candle that I got for my birthday, and in that, we shouldn't be burning these things. If you read the bottom of candles, they're full of chemicals. So if you have if you're an atopic person like we are, you should not be burning them. We all think they're lovely, don't we, candles?
I mean, we got rid of
a whole subject. We could talk about indoor air pollution.
I know. Well, this is the thing, because I think with the, diet is just one aspect of what we can do. So, if anybody's watching this and you're just like, I can't cope with just making any adjustments to my diet right now, or you're in such a bad emotional state that food is your comfort and that's kind of all you've got, then look at environmental things, look at how your food is being cooked, especially if people are having takeaways and stuff like that. That's all being often cooked in foil containers, foil leaches into the food, you're going to get particles of aluminium. That's not great. We don't need that. So there's all these other aspects. You could start just addressing that to start with. Start looking at what you're cleaning the house with. As you say, Ruth, are you opening the windows? What kind of candles, what kind of fragrances are you using? Have you got bottles of Febreze in the house that you're spraying all over everything?
Horrible stuff.
And can't figure out why your asthma's got worse, right?
It's such a big bugbear for me.
Yeah, and you just see the adverts on TV, and it's that they spray the sofas, they spray the beds, they spray the clothes,
everything. They're spraying their dog with it. Poor thing.
And so if food is your comfort right now, then let's address these other areas to start with. We've got some other chats around that, haven't we? I think coming.
Yeah, lots of things coming up. It's been really interesting, but I've definitely got some things to work on.
Yeah, and again, try not to think of it as it's things to work on. I need to do better, right?
That is definitely how I feel.
Yeah, but that's how I felt as well. It was like I was trying to attain this like food perfection, and the problem with trying to attain the food perfection is we get controlling, and what does that become? That is a whole disease state in itself,
an obsession, and then you're anxious because you haven't had juice that day. Or
they've got a name for it as well. So it's called orthorexia.
Oh God.
So kind of similar to like anorexia, but orthorexia is like where you're so focused on like attaining like food perfection or food health, right? That becomes your entire life. So maybe somebody might be counting calories, or maybe they're too involved in the food choices, and I went down that way when I started, because I had this like belief that I could fix everything by me making the right choices in food. And that was so wrong, and it led to me being very very strict, and not saying nice things to myself, to be perfectly honest, because then if you don't make those right choices, then you kind of beat yourself up, and that's really helpful.
Yeah, I think I've been doing a bit of beating myself up. Try not to, but
no. So yeah, I suppose it's about knowing. Here's probably something for people to focus on. Your body knows what it's doing. Okay, all it needs is for you to give it nutrition for one, and it needs to be hydrated. Basically, it needs water, and so you can get that from fruits and veggies as well. So focus on getting as much as that in. Your body will thank you, and your body will do the rest for you. Is this the only thing you need to focus on when it comes to turning your health around? No, it isn't at all. The best thing you can do is just wake up each day and just say, right, what am I going to do today to help and support my body? If it turns out that day you don't really do very much to help and support your body, just go, sorry, I was feeling a bit rubbish. Tomorrow I'm going to do better. But at least I enjoyed the cake, alcohol, or whatever it was that you had, right? Make sure you enjoy it.
And also rest, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
So that you actually do digest properly and process stuff at night. There's a lot going on in the night. Yeah. And that is one thing, maybe we could talk about that as well in another topic, but that's one thing that's really changed since working with you, and since, I mean, it may have happened anyway, I've reached just over a year topical steroid withdrawal, but that was something I could not do. So when your skin is trying to heal and you're not sleeping at all at night, and you're trying to grab sleep in the day, I'm not very good at sleeping in the day. That becomes a bit of a problem, and it's something is going on at night that keeps you awake when you're going through it for some reason.
Yeah, and it depends what time you wake. That again, yes, really,
yeah,
whole of
so much.
Because it depends what time you wake up, and it depends what your hormones are doing, and depending on whatever time it is, it's going to tell you something different about where you need support in your body as well. So much.
I know. I'm going to go and order some elderflower cordial, some maple syrup.
Yeah. Okay, don't drink the maple syrup, all right?
No, well, no, I think it's a bit too sweet. I did have some recently that I got for a recipe. And I've run out.
Yeah.
I'm using up the honeys at the moment, which is also good.
Yeah. Yeah, honey again. Yeah, absolutely fine. If anybody's dealing with hay fever, then try and get local honey if you can, because that's going to just help you with the hay fever as well. So.
Oh, my hay fever's awful at the moment. Do you get hay fever as well?
I used to get it really badly, but I'm good now.
I'm getting better because I don't take anything for it at the moment.
Good.
But I know that when I go outside for a walk, my eyes are just screaming.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone saw me the other day, and but this is quite funny actually. I know we're supposed to be wrapping up, but I wasn't touching my eyes, my face, because I was trying not to. Also because of something else I was doing, and I know that I had tears streaming down my face, and she's like, "Are you okay?" I found a baby owl.
Oh.
A baby tawny owl. So I wrapped it in my coat, and it was covered in bird shit. And obviously, like, I'm a serial face toucher, and I was thinking I cannot touch my face while I'm carrying this shit covered baby bird, which I took to the wildlife sanctuary because it was so tiny. It had his eyes were shut and it couldn't walk, couldn't really move. It was just on the floor quivering, and it was pouring with rain. So that, I would say, is one way for me to stop touching my face, is to care for a shit covered bird for 3 hours. But anyway, that was a bit extreme. But it's now at the wildlife sanctuary.
Yeah.
But my eyes were just like pouring.
Yeah. That shows you.
And normally I wipe it away.
Power.
Pouring down my face.
Oh, bless you.
I think this woman thought I was crying.
Yeah.
About the owl. It's just hay fever, and I happen to have just found an owl.
Yeah, I happen to just got out. Can't touch my face.
No, I couldn't even like wipe my face because I had this tiny little owl in my hand.
Oh, bless it.
I'll send you a picture.
Yeah, he's probably fallen out of a nest somewhere.
Yeah, he's fallen down from this massive tree, I think.
Yeah, it's not like you could climb up the tree and put it back.
No, they say to leave they say the guidelines are that you should probably not move it and to maybe make it safe, but it was pouring with rain, and this thing, there was nowhere to put it, and the further away you take it from mum, the less likely it's going to get fed, and it would have just fallen off something. It was so tiny. So anyway, that was my good deed for last week.
Yeah.
Totally off subject.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's how it goes, right? Awesome. Well, we should probably wrap up because, as you said, we can always just keep chatting. But if there are any questions from any of you guys that are watching this back, please feel free to send them into Ruth, post them under wherever we've posted this, basically.
Yeah, I'm showing them on YouTube.
Fantastic. So yeah, I'm showing them in the Facebook group that I've got online. What I was thinking of doing actually was putting them into so I have an online platform.
Like a folder,
yeah. So I was thinking of actually uploading them in there, and so people can actually get access to them via free preview. They can just sign up and get access to them there.
Yeah. Send people to your Facebook page to see them then if they're on there.
Yeah, and it's just because I know with Facebook and all that kind of stuff, things just disappear off.
No, it's like, where's it gone? It's gone into the underneath everything else, isn't it?
So hopefully, if you guys can bear with me, I'm going to create a little home for these little chats, and then you can post questions and things.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's been wonderful.
And thank you for that. It was really interesting because I have spent years looking into all of this, and I'm still only like at the tip of my journey really when it comes to food. I've learned a lot, but
there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of variables. There's a lot that we can dig in, and I suppose, as I say, don't beat yourself up about it. We're not looking for the perfect diet. We're looking for the perfect diet for you. And that's going to be different for everybody.
And it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be a diet where most of the time you're doing the right thing for your body, and you can have the odd treat, because we're going to walk past the cake shops and things we can't avoid every now and then.
But yeah, and this is we've got to. This is the world we live in. we want to be able to interact with it. And I think, it's difficult with allergies, and for sure, you want to be able to feel like I can go out and I can actually do these things. So for me, the most important thing was to get over my allergies so that I could reintroduce foods and not feel restricted, and then just choose to eat really well, 50% of the time. And then when I go out, it's just like no restrictions. I
don't feel restricted though, and I have quite limited, some people would say, diets. I can't eat nuts, dairy, wheat or soya, but I can eat every other food under the sun, and I guess that's the way I look at it.
Yes.
Myself, I can eat, at the moment, there are probably some things I maybe should eat less of. Sugar, wine,
sugar, wine.
But I can eat all of these foods, and I'm trying to do that, especially now. Like, I'm getting surprise things brought to me, and just eat different vegetables, eat different fruits, experiment, eat different coloured foods.
Exactly. So keep sharing your journey, I think, because it's brilliant when people see, because it's just from a positive mindset. That's where we need to come from. So definitely. Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
With that.
Alrighty, I am going to say goodbye to everybody.
See you next week.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye.